I worked with people going through the Redress WA scheme. People were very excited and scared. There was quite a level of mistrust. People then sort of took the plunge, told their very painful stories. People describe it as being as hard as the abuse itself, to go back and look in detail at really traumatic experiences that they'd consciously not thought about for many years. So when the payment cuts were announced, it was devastating. There's no way really to capture it other than it was re-abuse by the system.
I had to put my mind back when I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11-year-old, because all these things happened to me right through the years. To say you're not worth anything, we're just going to give you, probably when you look out, about $1 a day. That's all it was, $1 a day or less. That's all you're worth.
But it was never about the money, it was about the healing for me. That changed when the government halved the money, and then it became about the money. It's like, how dare they? They cheated us in the first place and they're still cheating us now. And this rubbish of changing government, that doesn't sit well with me. But anyway, that's their reason for it, and we had no choice.
It was like a little pot of gold for all that childhood that I endured. And then virtually to have that pot of gold and the plans that you had made for that money ripped away by having it reduced in half was very traumatising in itself.
I didn't know what we were going to get, because people had been paid out before. I mean, some of us low as 13,000, so I wasn't expecting a great deal out of it. But then when they offered me the 45, I actually got angry and just about smashed my door down, because I thought, you mongrels knew you were at fault and you're going to give us a bit of blood money. And then I thought, stuff it. It was supposed to be 85. If you're stating that you got paid out the maximum severity of child abuse, plus it was sexual abuse, where's the maximum payout gone? So yeah, it actually pissed me off, and still does.
You know, it's not a right. It's just something that they're entitled to. You know, I mean, to say they didn't ask to be treated like that. You know, I mean, we've got to have acknowledgement from the government. You know, financial acknowledgement that they'll pay the extra compensation to the people, because some of the people could really use it right now.
We had to recount the instances of abuse, sexual, physical, emotional, and then we submitted the application, and then nothing was heard from for at least, probably for over a year, when the redress people who didn't have a physical manifestation, just a telephone number, then you were given a letter of apology and take it or leave it, 45,000 or less. It took no account of the damages that were endured or suffered by people in the institutions for which the state was responsible.
It was definitely the case of let's get this over and done with. Let's get out of this as cheaply as possible. Let's just slap these people off and hope that they die or be forgotten, as we are called, the forgotten Australians. It's never going to fix it, but it does say we are sorry, we mean it. Words come easy, money doesn't.
Why'd they promise us the money and then halve it? Why'd they do that? It was just ridiculous. That's why we all protested. That's why we done what we done.
Again, we're being sort of treated poorly, and I can't emphasise that enough. And we're all dying off. I'm 85 this year, and how much longer am I going to live?
I got 45,000 and I presume I was due to get 90,000 because I think that's what happened. They split it in half. They did. And, you know, I just took it on the chin. But I think whoever was in that situation, they should have all got the same. That's what I think. Not just a little bit here and a little bit there. Because I know some people only got 5,000. You know, that's not fair, you know.
Going through the stories that needed to be brought up to qualify for redress, and it was pure hell. It was months and months, not just the time to write out your story or your record or your truth. It was the delving back into the memories which were locked away for so many years and brought to life again. The pain, the hurt, the disabling was there again.
You know, I thought I'd be right for me and my kids, you know, get out and have everything for my kids. But then they cut it in half.
I've grown up living on the bare bones, struggling. I didn't have an education. I left school very early, went to work, bounced in and out of different jobs. Relationships, 2 or 3 months here, 2 or 3 months there. Never had children, never experienced that. Now I look at it and I regret. You can pay for it. You did this to me. You can pay for it.
At Redress, there wasn't any proper sort of counselling and emotional support. You were just supposed to tell them what happened to you. I came out with part of my story, and I found that I was instantly hit with the horrific nightmares that had troubled me right through my childhood and teenage years. Eventually, Redress sent me a cheque for $5,000. I felt totally powerless, like I had no voice. And it was the same as my nightmares. I never had a voice. I'd be trying to scream and no voice would come in my nightmares.
When it was announced that children in care and child migrants were to receive compensation for mistreatment whilst they were in care, it was quite a relief to know that perhaps our stories were being believed after all these years. The amount that was to be given was, the full price was 80,000 and going down to however many years you were there in care. A year down or 2 down the track, the Liberal Party came in and they cut the funding in half, which I thought was a total disgrace.
When the compensation was chopped in half, that was, to me personally, that wasn't what did the damage to me. It was the whole attitude of the whole thing. And as a man, I would like to get up and say something to you, which I hope sticks in your throat and you choke on it, because you have no integrity, you have no wisdom, you have no principle, you have absolutely nothing on your side except the law. We have the principle, the ethics, the moral, it's all on our side. My neighbour Terry, we had his 80th birthday the other day. He came from Ireland in 1944 or 45 or something, and he has a message to convey to you, and this is per word. He said, "You're a pack of bastards."
Can we get the help that we need here in Western Australia by the new government that can undo the damage that's been done to Western Australia and the needy people?
In the old days, the bag wasn't as simple as this. It was a lot smaller. It was an old cast-off purse from a mother. But it's always contained the same things. 2 pair of underwear and some sort of toilet roll, whether it was newspaper or one of the more modern things. That is the curse of being a baby child in a boys' home with no discipline, manned or frequented by male and female pedophiles. And the fact that no government ever sent anyone up to check us, to talk to us, ask us if we were right or if we were well, or if anything was happening to us that should not have been. But when a government can come forward and say, we are going to redress the situation that happened, and it will be an open book, and then say, oh dear, we don't have sufficient money for that because we want to build a new football field at Burswood. And for those of us who have suffered, it's a massive kick in the guts.
He was told he was entitled to the higher amount because of what happened to him and that. And then when it was lowered, everything just plummeted. His whole earth dropped out from underneath him, and he thought he was going to get some kind of closure through it. And he lost that closure. He lost his life, he lost everything. And yeah, I felt sad and upset for him because it was one thing that was out of my control that I couldn't have any control over.
When my daughters found out what we went through, I'd never once in my lifetime told my daughters or my wife. But when Bridget Shearson came to our house and my wife first learned of it, and they tried to deny it at first, but through the welfare and other people, we had backing proof. And my wife broke down, could not believe it. I'd suffered for so many years and never brought it upon her or my children. Each one of my children, when they found out, literally hugged me, loved me and cried. And I said, Dad, we're just so sorry for what you went through.
I was listening to a Howard Sattler program, and there were some people saying that, oh, we were only interested in the money, you know, what happened. That's what they did in those days, you know, and put up with it, you know, you can't change what happened. We weren't trying to change what happened. We wanted to be heard. We wanted to be acknowledged. And it had terrible impact. A lot of things that happened to me there affected me in my life and in my married life. And it took years of us leaving there to overcome our cowering and our submissiveness, you know, to be submissive, you know. When I left there, I could not even go into the shop and buy anything. I could not even lift my eyes up or look at anybody in the face.
Oh, I suppose like everybody else, I was disappointed that the government cut our compensation by half. What we went through, it still hurt till this day.
When Redress came along, I hummed and hard about it, whether I would even do it, to be honest. But for me, on a personal level, I didn't find it easy. The one thing that I didn't like, and I still don't like to this day, is they said that they were going to give us X amount of dollars, then they took it away. And then that was the Liberal Party. And then the Labor Party kind of said, you know, when we get in, we'll give it back to you, sort of thing. And that's never going to happen because do we deserve it? Yes, we do. Will that ever happen? No, it won't. I'm sure for most people that were in Redress, it really wasn't about the money, right? But when you offer somebody X amount of dollars, give them that X amount of dollars. Don't just say, oh, you can have that little bit, but we'll take that bit back. That doesn't work. If we were to do that to them, they wouldn't like that, and we didn't like that, and that we should be reimbursed that money that they owe us, I believe.
The mere pittance, the redress money was a mere pittance to the amount of time, years, 11 and a half years, spent in an institution of child slave labour, and it was child slave labour, there's no doubt about it. For 47 years, when she put in for redress, I didn't know about the bad stuff. So it's really pretty bad what they've been through, and as far as that goes, myself and my children have been through it. That's it.
Almost 6,000 vulnerable West Australians were harmed by the Redress WA scheme. They were re-abused, in effect. And what the government needs to do now is make that original promise right. There's an opportunity now for the Labor government to make Redress WA right.